Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology, and you are listening to my September horoscopes. And this is the horoscope for Pisces. So I hope that you're all I hope you all had a good summer. If you're new to my channel and you've never seen my video blogs before, that's because they're brand new. I typically have written them in the past, so I've written them for astrograph.com. Let me show you Astrograph so you have a sense of um, what Astrograph is. Here's astrograph.com. If you click on the horoscopes tab at the top, you can find the written version of this horoscope every month. Go all the way to the glyph for Pisces at the end, click on it. It'll take you to a page where you can read everything to come in the month in the written version. You'll also see a little intro for each month from Henry Seltzer, who's the founder and owner of Astrograph. And he has a nice newsletter you should check out as well. He's definitely a mentor of mine in terms of writing these horoscopes. So at any rate, that being said, I also want to point you to the actual time passages software. So Astrograph is known for making a astrological software program called Time Passages. It's an app you can get on your phone or your desktop. It comes in different packages: basic, standard, advanced, complete, budget friendly, really user friendly. That's one of two programs that I use personally and couldn't recommend it more highly. So check that out if you're looking to learn how to cast charts. It's really basic, easy way to get a little bit more serious about astrology. So that being said, let's dive into your monthly horoscope. So switch over here. Basically, the month gets started with a transit from Mercury to Venus that's taking place on September 3rd. You're going to see the two planets getting together here between Leo and Libra. So Mercury is in Leo in your 6th house, making a sextile to Venus in Libra in the 8th house. So first of all, Mercury and Venus contacts are known for fluid, easy, graceful communication dynamics in relationships. So the sextile is harmonious. The two getting together usually means you're going to be able to find agreement, whether you're doing a business deal, whether it's at work, or whether it's in a romantic relationship. It's a great transit for just finding that sweet spot of agreement, or of finding interesting conversation, flirtation, attractiveness in language or speech, commonality with friends, intellectual camaraderie. So it's a nice, sweet little transit that's taking place pretty early on. Happening from your 6th to 8th houses, there are some additional topics that could be involved. 6th house is the house of service, where you want to try to be of help to those who need help in the world. 6th house is also related to sometimes like health problems or healing. A lot of nurses, doctors, surgeons, social workers are found in the 6th house, is associated with poor health. But with this transit, you might be finding some form of assistance or aid when it comes to helping others or finding help for yourself. If you employ people or you hire people, this could be a time where you're finding a way of renegotiating a contract, or finding, hiring just the right person, hiring someone you like. This could also be a time where there's, positive communication dynamics. If you're in charge of people at the workplace, things are coming together, conflicts are being resolved easily. Some nice things indicated there. 8th house has to do with other people's money, spouse's money. Those are topics that could come up. Again, you would think of something perhaps favorable. You do want to be careful of sort of like loose spending around this time, or overdoing things, or sort of overpromising. There's maybe a little bit of a grandiosity with Mercury and Leo connecting with Venus that you want to be a little bit careful of. But the 8th house is also a house of death and rebirth. It's often associated with those things in modern astrology. And so the idea that this transit could also bring up some level of ease around confronting or talking about things that are somewhat challenging or difficult in relationships, but maybe coming to a positive place because of it. It's also like the question of what you feel like fighting for, and who's on your team or who's on your side, where you feel like you can accept help from others and where you can't. Those are also questions that might be pertinent. And we go forward from September 3rd to September 8th. Now, on September 8th, Venus, still in your 8th house, will be making a square to Mars in your 11th house. So the 11th house is a house that is associated with friends, allies, benefactors, groups of people or organizations that you belong to. The Venus-Mars square, before I say anything more about the houses, can bring up sexual tension. These are the quintessential planets of the masculine and the feminine. So some tension or stress between assertive and passiveness, or some stress or tension sexually, some chemistry in the air. That's all indicated by this. So you do want to be careful of that. Venus is in the superior position, which means she may be asserting a little bit more of her needs for compromise, negotiation, balance, fairness, beauty, grace, sophistication. Those things might be sort of a little bit stronger. The need for those things may be more dominant right now. But Mars in the 11th house is exalted and likes to find, hardworking commonality with others, or people who are great allies that are hardworking or reputable, or who could help you achieve your desires or goals or something like that. This square from the 8th to the 11th, considering the topic of friends, allies, groups, and also other people's money, maybe have something to do with loans or finding groups that could benefit you or offer you some kind of resource. At the same time, the theme of whether or not you should take something from somebody, or whether or not you should accept something that's being given or offered, might be part of the question right now. Maybe there's a little bit of an ethical edge to this moment. But you could also see some sense of feeling or finding support and some healthy form of dependency from allies or groups or some organization or what have you. But you also want to be careful of the drama, the gossip, the opportunism, the what can I get out of this? A little bit of a Machiavellian vibe to this one potentially. So you do want to be careful of sort of being taken advantage of, or getting, or maybe somewhat unintentionally taking advantage of others. So do be careful of those things. Then going on from there, you're going to go to September. We're going to go to, September 9th. Skipped over it. September 9th, you're going to see a new moon in your 7th house of relationships, opposite Neptune in Pisces in your home sign in the 1st house. So here the question has to do with relationships. There's a new moon suggesting a seed being planted, or a sort of focus being pointed at the area of love and relationships or partnerships. In the 1st house, on the other hand, Neptune is asking some really deep questions about identity. Whenever Neptune's involved by an opposition, you want to ask the question, am I seeing things clearly? Am I wearing rose-colored glasses? Can I discern the difference between fact and fiction? On the other hand, you have to, Neptune in Pisces demands that the imagination be honored, that spirit and the otherworldly, transcendental, or spiritual elements of life be preserved within oneself, or be honored and acknowledged within oneself. So how do those topics come in right now to relationships? Is there an aura of, a kind of critical dominance in your relationships? Does your partner tend to be critical of everything that you do, or do they tend to, be more rational and heady, and maybe it's something that you need to say or do something about, because you tend to just let it sort of infiltrate you, seep into you, and now maybe there's a feeling of starting to feel overwhelmed or even sickened by it. On the other hand, this transit could also indicate that you're not being totally clear about who you're letting into your life and why. So the issue of boundaries in relationships, being discerning, being discriminating. And also, it's not the worst thing in the world if someone has some form of constructive feedback for you about who you are, the way you're behaving or going through life. It may be that someone is entering your life, or someone in your life that you're in relationship with has something to offer you right now, and you may not want to hear it, but if it helps you to get real, to get grounded, to make sure that you're not floating off somewhere, then it might be good, helpful advice, or good constructive feedback to consider. Okay, so that's September 9th, new moon. Going forward from there, now we go to September 12th. And on September 12th, you have Venus in the sign of Scorpio in your 9th house, making an opposition to Uranus in your 3rd. Now, first of all, for everybody, this transit can bring up non-traditional sexual, relational, or artistic dynamics. Venus, the artist, the lover, the harmonizer, opposite Uranus, the rebel, the one who thinks outside of the box. So non-traditional relationship dynamics, experimentation and originality, sexually or relationally, issues about beliefs and sexuality or gender roles, those things can all be indicated right now. You do have to be careful because there can be the tendency to draw a line in the sand on this one about differing beliefs or ideas or ideals in relationships. And the reason for this is that this transit is taking place across your 3rd and 9th house axis, which has a lot to do with the mind and our beliefs and our communication with one another. And so some element of defiance or, again, rebelliousness and creativity, but also disruption and the potential to want to break free of things that aren't working and maybe a little impulsively is all indicated. So, but again, overall, the potential for there to be some hard lines drawn in the sand around differing beliefs, ideas, values, core convictions in your relationships is potentially quite strong. There could also be some kind of renaissance or rebirth in terms of wanting to learn something new or study somewhere or study abroad or live abroad or travel. There could be some element of romance or love that's non-traditional that's popping up while you're traveling. So those are some themes to look for around September 12th. Next, we go to September 18th. On September 18th, oops, move this back just a bit. On September 18th, we're going to see the planet Mars in your 12th house in Aquarius, making a square to Uranus and Taurus in the 3rd house. Here, you want to be careful because first of all, the Mars has been retrograde in your 12th house all summer long, which means that there can be some feelings of built-up frustration or futility, the themes of being empowered or disempowered in this hard dichotomy between the two, dealing with frustration or anger, a feeling of impotency, a sense of needing to confront or deal with shadows, having a hard time letting go of something, surrendering, trusting, issues of faith. Mars in the 12th is like that, but it's also been square to Uranus in the 3rd house, which may be involved with things, I don't know how exactly these topics would be related, but siblings, technology, communication, the mind. So, for example, the Mars in the 12th square Uranus in the 3rd can be about subversive forms of technology that somehow have an application to your life, or sudden changes that you're trying to make in how you think and communicate with others, trying to be more assertive, maybe needing to have some kind of breakthrough and speak or do or say something that is just a little bit more assertive than you usually would be. Mars also square to Uranus could indicate that you're ready to take some kind of risk, and you want to be very careful about that, because this can be a little bit reckless and a little bit like, I can't accept that it's not going the way that I want it to be, and so I'm going to take a big gamble or a big risk here. And there's maybe a little bit of recklessness or being a little bit accident prone even to this transit, so you do want to be careful of that. But otherwise, the idea of being more assertive and maybe having some kind of mental, intellectual, or communicative breakthrough might be indicated. All right, so that's September 18th. Next, the sun will pass through the gateway of the autumn equinox between September 22nd and 23rd. Now, that's going to take the sun into your 8th house. whenever the sun passes through the equinoxes or the solstices, it is toning the whole season to come, which is 3 signs long or about 90 days. So this fall season shows us with the sun in the 8th house. It's a house that's associated, again, with other people's money, loans, debt, partners, or finances or money. So those themes could be really big, but also death and rebirth, the ending of things, the things that are falling apart, sometimes having to pay the piper or deal with things that we don't want to deal with or don't want to have to face, but they transform us and they're very helpful. So there may be some emphasis on the 8th house, house of death and rebirth, other people's money, etc. It's also a house that's associated with penalties and having to, whether it's paying taxes or paying a loan or just being in debt and paying it off, and debt and penalties. Those kinds of things come up in the 8th house. Sounds a little harsh, but we all have karma and we all have lessons to learn, and the 8th house is sometimes where we focus in and learn those lessons. But with the sun in Libra, there's a certain kind of grace and balance and harmony that's there for you to help you reflect and be really intelligent. And I think that could be a balancing force. In fact, Libra, the constellation image of Libra, of course, are the scales. So going from there, the very next day, September 24th, you're going to see, spin it all the way around so we get back. You're going to see the full moon then in the sign of Aries in your 2nd house of money and finances, opposite Sun and Mercury in your 8th house, the T-square to Saturn in your 11th. Let me put it this way. Don't pay too much right now for your dreams. Be very careful about overextending yourself because you want something and you're just going to do whatever it takes to get it. I think you should be very careful about that. The reason I'm saying this is because the moon in the 2nd house is about finances, money, but also belongings, possessions, things that we want or desire. It's opposite the sun and Mercury in the 8th house, other people's money, loans and debt. And it's T-square to Saturn in the 11th, which is about ambitions that we might be very hard and determined about, even rigid about. So you do want to be careful about kind of, I'll do whatever it takes. That's something to just be aware of. On the other hand, the question of finances in relationships and your long-term dreams, goals, or plans, and trying to balance those forces right now may be in the picture. And you could also think, generally speaking, about new opportunities financially or in terms of investments, maybe finding new allies or resources from other people, and those things could be helpful. So again, remember, one of the themes this month is just being careful of opportunism or how far will I go to get what I want. Those could be themes that are pronounced, not necessarily that they will be, but those are some of the red flags I have. Try to always mention certain things to be careful of. But otherwise, I think what's really kind of exciting is that in just a couple of months, Jupiter in November is going to enter your career house. We'll be talking about that in November's video blogs. And that's a really exciting time coming up for you professionally, a time of great expansion that's on the horizon. And then next month, we'll be talking about Venus retrograde in your 9th house of higher education, beliefs, travel, and that should be an interesting one to look forward to as well. So that's what I've got for you this month. I want to point you all to my website. So you can check out my work at nightlightastrology.com, and you can check out the readings that I offer if you want to do a full reading together sometime, certification courses that I offer. I've got one coming up in November, or different speakers that I'm having this fall. And then I make a lot of daily, weekly video content and written content as well. And you can sign up for my newsletter and get regular updates. So that's what I've got for you all, Pisceans. Please feel free to comment on this thread throughout the month and share your stories. How are things going? I'd love to hear from you guys. All right, take care, everyone. Have a good one.